all about deciding how you want to feel and creating a life that supports that. The more relaxed your nervous system is on a daily basis, the quicker you'll be able to shift out of limiting beliefs that keep you from taking action and really truly manifesting the life of your dreams. And know that setbacks, stillness, and silence are actually God's setups for something even greater. Welcome to the Permission Slip Podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Decide how you want to feel and create a life that supports that. That's really what we're doing. I don't know if you remember that very first assignment I had you do that was like, what am I really fucking good at? And how do I want to feel? Do you remember how you wanted to feel? How do you want to feel every day on a daily basis? That might be something now that you can write down, and guess what? Maybe it's changed. One of my deepest feelings that I want to feel is I want to feel free. I want to feel free from confinement of comparison or societal expectations. I want to feel, Bonnie just said, I want to feel like time doesn't exist. That's so good. Yeah. So free. That's what I was just talking about. I want to feel not rushed. I want to feel so aligned and free in my movement, in my body. I don't want to feel sore, stiff. Freedom is so huge. So why doesn't everybody pop in the chat box how they want to feel? So decide how you want to feel and create a life that supports it. The more relaxed your nervous system is, the quicker you'll be able to shift your limiting beliefs that keep you from taking action on your dreams and the life that you truly love and want to manifest. So the more relaxed your nervous system is, the quicker you'll be able to shift, just like what Michelle was talking about, those limiting beliefs, and be able to take action. The other thing that I want each of you to know is when you're vulnerable, people will connect with you and guide you. And your network begins where your skill set ends. And oftentimes we're trying to do this all alone. And that's what this whole community part was about. That's why the Circle app was set up, was for each of you to connect. And it's not meant to end here. It's supposed to be like, okay, I felt really connected to this person or this woman or these women, and I'm going to be the one to stay connected, to have this network, because I know if they're in the life coaching summer school, that they're meant to be connected with me and they're on a growth mindset. And those are the people that I want to have in my life. And when you're most vulnerable, even though it's scary, and that's something we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about armor today. That's when you're most connected. And just a reminder that your network begins where your skill set ends. I would not be where I'm at today without other women supporting me, helping me, and guiding me. Setbacks and silence are actually God's setups for something greater. And seriously, I'm almost about to cry because everything that all three of you said is in what I wrote, 110%. So setbacks and silence are actually God's setups for something greater. And sometimes we're asking for a sign, we're asking for guidance, we're just asking for anything, and there's nothing, there's silence. But the silence is really meant to set us up for something greater, to give us strength for something even better that we can't even see, even bigger than our wildest dreams. And then aligned, inspired action leads to clarity, peace, freedom, and joy. Aligned, inspired action, so not frantic action, not feeling every day, not worrying, not anxiety-ridden, not overwhelmed action, but aligned, inspired action where we're not activating our nervous system all the time leads to clarity, peace, freedom, and joy. Yeah, and a lot of us are talking about being free. Hey, Jen, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
So then I love this quote, and this is going to be kind of leading into the 3 things I'm going to talk about. And then at the end of today, I'm going to open it for question and answer as well. Is the quote from Joe Dispenza, who does a lot of work with the brain, but the only way to step into your new future is to confront the parts of you that are not going there. The only way to step into your new future are to confront the parts of you that are not going there. So we all have parts of us within us that have done a really good job helping us feel safe, seen, secure, and soothed. And we've gotten here because they've protected us. But they also protect us from stretching ourselves, from pushing into uncomfortable, from trying new things, building new relationships, staying in old relationships. They keep us small. They keep us in this uncomfortable, feeling this uncomfortable cycle of limiting thoughts and beliefs because we're so used to it. We're so comfortable with the discomfort of the shit that we're thinking and the people that are around us and what we're experiencing, because we don't want to push into something new that might feel better for fear of what we are going to receive because we don't have clarity. But it's when we can step into that space that we can just jump and go for it, that we can uncover like, oh, out here isn't so bad. And back there, like, I'm going to leave parts of me back there because she is no longer needed. And so the 3 things I wanted to talk to you about is armor and taking off our armor. I know I had armor on for a long time. Negative situations and reframing them. And then our self-talk in our head. And we're each going to go ahead and give a little name to that negative Nelly that's in our head. So we can start talking to her and telling her like, hey, we don't need you right now. So pain goes a couple of different ways. It produces a callus or it creates compassion. And we get to choose. So we can choose callus, our ego self, that fear-based self, that anxiety-ridden self, or we can choose love and compassion. Now, our ego self would like to convince you that pain is a punishment or pain is permanent. But here's what I want you to know about pain is that it can be a driver to purpose. We can often utilize our stories and our pain and the things that we go to and interweave that in our purpose in life. It may not be our everyday job, but maybe it's our purpose to help someone else that we know. So again, pain can be a callus, or we can use it for compassion and love. But what happens most of the time, we've probably all heard that, oh, it's so rough out here. Life's tough, but you've got this, you're strong. Things are hard. And so what happens as we go through life is we get hurt, someone tells us something, there's trauma in our life, or something impacts us so much that that person inside of us starts protecting us. Our ego self starts putting on armor and protecting ourselves because inside we all want to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And so we figure out that, okay, well, if I put on this armor, then I don't have to be vulnerable, because we decide that we're not comfortable showing up in a situation just authentically ourselves and just giving 100%. We're going to show up with our armor on. But what happens when I go through life with armor on? What happens if I gave you a hug with armor on? It fucking hurts you. I wouldn't be close to you. And I did this for a really long time. I wore armor. I probably wore like 20 sets of armor. And for the reason is I didn't want to show up vulnerably because I thought vulnerability meant that I was weak and other people would perceive me as weak. I didn't want people to look down on me. because of labels that I put on myself, because of labels that other people put on me. And so I wouldn't show up authentically and I would put armor on. I was the one that was always fine. And I was the one that was always achieving and helping other people. But what that limited me from was deep, meaningful connections. I didn't have a lot of those. I didn't know what that was. And I really didn't experience that much joy, because when you have armor on, you're protecting yourself from experience the pain that was down here that caused me to be so calloused. But also what happens is you have the armor on and you can't experience what's up here. And so it all comes down to that level of vulnerability. And that's something that each of you have done based on your own comfort level here in this group of shared vulnerably. The more we can share vulnerably, the more we can take our power back from those stories and those limitations and those labels that we put on ourselves. So labels. So I want you to think about, what are some of the labels that you put on yourself? Like, do you say that you're a mom? Do you say that you're, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm not a runner. I don't really like running. Like, what are some labels that you put on yourself that you say, if someone was to ask you to describe yourself, pop a few of your labels in the chat box. Let's see. I'm going to put some in there too. So like mom, wife, daughter, I have MS, I'm not a runner. These are all things that I've told myself before. A label someone else told me before, actually a professor in college, was that I'm not an entrepreneur. So mom, goofball therapist, instructor, wife. What are some other labels? What about any other labels? Sometimes we tell ourselves that we're not organized, or we're not the type of person that fill in the blank. Any labels like that? Or I'm not good at this thing. Often I'll tell myself I'm not like good at like technology. Or the details. What are some of those labels that you have for yourself? Yeah, Michelle, I hear that. Not good at sitting still. But what does, so I'm not a relaxing person, no patience. Yeah. So I want you to think about some of those labels that we're putting in there and that we're often putting on ourselves. The first thing is something that I was talking about when Bonnie had shared earlier, was the thoughts that we think are going to be what we experience in life. So the more that we can start thinking the thoughts of what we want to experience, the more we're going to be able to experience it. So like looking at, let's say like Jen, she says, I'm not good at sitting still. So if I'm not good at sitting still, that would probably mean that I'm not good at meditation. That would probably mean that I'm not good at these other things. So is it really that you're not good at sitting still? Or is it that you're just always so used to being in that chronic nervous system activation that you just have to try to like force yourself to sit still and see what you can discover? Because what's going to happen if you start sitting still? Or Renee said, I'm not a morning person. I legit, you can ask Joel, was the worst morning person. And I would tell myself that over and over. Like, I didn't want anybody to talk to me. Man, I taught the kids how to like get ready. They wanted to wake up with their own alarm clock, make their own food, like do their own thing. They were independent even when they were younger. So like, I am not a morning person. I'm doing my own thing. Guess what? Guess what my favorite time of day is now? Morning. I love morning. I want to see everybody in morning. I want to do my thing in morning. I want to have my water, do my rituals. I want to wake up so early. I want to see the sunrise. Morning is so great. Yeah, it's scary to sit with my thoughts and feelings. Yeah. So all of these things, here's what I want you to know about our labels. So, in the work after this call, I would encourage you to sit and write down all the labels that you think of yourself. Labels become lenses. That's how we see the world. Lenses become limits. When we label ourselves, we see ourselves a certain way. Labels become lenses, and then those lenses limit us. And we begin not to trust ourselves. But labels are a lie. I have so many times proven this. So the morning person, I'm a morning person. I am. But for a long time, I told myself I wasn't a morning person. But what led to that? That led to me not consistently taking care of myself, me not doing daily rituals, having a nighttime practice, having a morning practice, me overextending myself, not setting boundaries, not protecting my energy. And when I started doing more and more and more of those things, it's like these labels that I placed on myself, they fall off because you're more present. You're more self-aware. You're not pulled in 5,000 directions. Because the overwhelm and anxiety that you feel on a daily basis is not because you have too much on your plate or you don't know. It's because you're not clear on what you want. So you try to be everything to everyone, and it just burns you out. So you have to get really clear, like what we were talking about. How do I want to feel, and create a life that supports that slowly and surely. And the part that you missed, Jen, is we went over each week and wrote a takeaway, an aha moment, a success moment from each week, because the goal of this is implementing this. So I want you to be encouraged today that this is your time to say no more labels, and have every single label start to fall away, because you're going to start seeing with fresh eyes and no longer have those limits. And when you no longer have limits on yourself, you can make it easier to be vulnerable and start taking off your armor. Because you have 3 choices with your armor. You can put it on, you can keep it on, or you can take it off. And a lot of people ask, like, why do I have the armor? Like, where does this come from? And I really think it comes from a few different areas. So a lack of stability or predictability in your life. So like I said, what if you created some daily rituals, some daily disciplines that you know that you're in control of, you can't control anybody else, to help with that? And this could be even while you were growing up too. Maybe you have an ingrained fear. Maybe you were rejected or abandoned at one point, and then you remember that, and it just like is in your subconscious. Maybe you have lack of attention from a loved one at an early age or currently. Or maybe you had like a deep hurt, broken trust, or a trauma in your life. And so those are all things like to start working through. I remember one of the biggest moments when I started loving my body more and actually taking care of it instead of punishing it by under eating and over exercising and comparing myself to everyone, was the moment that I sat and remembered the memory when I first started questioning my body. Because just like Michelle put, I would always say, like, my body's just thick. This is how I am. Like, I have thick thighs. Like, and I would always tell myself again, those thoughts, like that I hate my legs. I wouldn't wear shorts. And this was like a perpetual cycle that was going on. And one of the ways I was able to help break through this was to remember the memory of, so my sister is 8 years younger than me, and I always babysat her. And one summer, my parents hired a babysitter for her. Her name happened to be Carmen. She, as well as mine. And she had just graduated high school, and she was going to get ready to go off to college, but she had this as a summer job. And I was like going into like 5th or 6th grade, and she asked me how much I weighed. And I remember telling her how much I weighed. I mean, I was small, and I told her how much I weighed. And the comment after that, well, I can't remember how much I weighed, but the comment after that, she's like, "Whoa, you weigh that much already? I didn't weigh that until I was a freshman in high school." And from that moment, I always thought I was the smallest one. I was like little, agile, like I never thought about my body at all. From that moment on, I remember doing my mom's like abs of still videos, buns of still, going running, doing all these things, and just building up this armor around that, finding ways to protect myself, not ever wanting to wear shorts or show my legs, thinking I was big. Fast forward to today, uncovering that memory, doing some mirror work, telling myself positive affirmations, reframing my thoughts. I love my legs. In fact, I just wore like the hottest outfit at an event last weekend, and I got multiple compliments on how amazing my legs are. Granted, they're not perfect. They have a little cellulite on them. Pretty much everybody's does, by the way. But I love them. So I just want you to be encouraged that you can remove the labels to see through a different lens, to let go of your limiting beliefs. So let's talk a little bit more about that negative self-talk. So 4 things that I want you to think about here is triggers for negative self-talk is the worrier. So you point out what can go wrong, what's going to go wrong, instead of what could go right. Like, I hate the question of what's the worst that can happen? Why aren't we asking ourselves what's the best that can happen? Because when we start projecting into worry and future tripping, then it starts pointing out any flaw that we have, and you imagine things going the worst, right? Does anybody ever do this? Like, imagine what's the worst that can happen, and it starts triggering like fear and anxiety in you. So maybe you're the worrier. The second thing is the critic. So you're constantly judging and evaluating your behavior, pointing out your flaws, reminding yourself of past mistakes, or after you go through an experience, you, instead of saying all the things that went right, you nitpick all the little things that you did wrong. I used to do this to myself all the time. And you compare yourself. So you have your worrier and your critic, and then you have the victim. So some of us are in the victim mode, where you're telling yourself that you're not making progress. It's hopeless, it's hard, it's not for me, it's not my fault because this thing is happening externally. All of these reasons are happening around me, so it's like, I can't do it because of that. There's too many obstacles in my way, so I'm the victim. And then the last thing, I can truly relate to this one, the perfectionist. So you push yourself to do more and more and more and get better, and then it's never good enough. You achieve, you never celebrate it, and you want more. You're always going. You want to make sure that you're only doing things that you're good at and not pushing yourself into greatness, because guess what? That's where you might be able to make a mistake or fail, or someone might look down on you and you won't get the accolades. So you always stay in the good level. And so it stops you from taking action on that next level, that big calling, that thing, that purpose, that passion, that thing that you really want to go for. So you might be the worrier, you might be the critic, you might be the victim, you might be the perfectionist. Which one of those do you resonate most with? Worry, critic, victim, perfectionist. I know for me, gosh, I was like a perfectionist that had like critic. Yeah. So it was like Jen, you too, like the world, like both the word, I can't even talk. The worst of both worlds. So here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about your thoughts today. So were some of the thoughts that you had today thoughts that you have every day? And I know we've talked about thoughts before, but this is really, really important to be able to recognize this. I know I shared with you that one of the thoughts that I'm still working on reframing is that I'm tired. I'm tired goes back to like my MS diagnosis when I was 25 to last year when I started feeling really sick again with like my hormones. And I was like worrying and projecting, and all these things were happening in my body because of the thoughts that I was thinking and that fear that came back up around the MS that I might actually be sick, to where I had to physically slow down with my work because I was actually tired. And it's not that way anymore. But that thought can still come up again. And so I have to reframe that often, that I'm not tired. Sometimes you can confuse tired with being peaceful, especially if you're in the chronic activation. nervous system activation all the time. Like sometimes we don't even know what it feels like to be peaceful. I love that. I love that you shared that. I always go back to, especially with my relationship with Joel, like the relationships that are closest to us. A Course in Miracles, nothing has meaning until you place meaning upon it. And whenever I find myself future tripping or projecting, I always remind myself, nothing has meaning until you place meaning upon this. Because we can, especially the people that we're around the most, like your significant other, someone close to you comes home or comes in and they don't really say anything. They put their stuff down and they walk into the other room. You're immediately projecting, they had a bad day. This is going to happen. This is what's going to happen. All these things, right? But what if they really just had to take a shit? And then they come out and now, like, that was the only thing that was happening. But your energy is diminished because you've now projected this. So now you're the one that's bringing this low vibe, negative frequency to the situation and to the relationship. Just reminding yourself nothing has meaning until you place meaning on it, I think is one of the absolute most important things that we can do. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. That was really beautiful. So weeks 1 through this week, is there any questions? At the beginning of this call, we went through and kind of wrote down takeaways from each week or aha moments. Is there any questions that I can answer? I want to make sure to do that. And then I pulled a card for us today and I cried a little bit after I already looked at it. It's so perfect. And the number 6 came through. So I shuffled it and it was 6. So if 6 is meaningful to anybody today, it's just staying in the work and staying connected is what's going to be so important for each of you to be able to continue to take action in your life. So let me end with the card and then the meditation, just some final words. And the final words are going to be a meditation from a book called 3 Magic Words. So the card says I am, and then I almost didn't look at the back at first, and then I took a little peek, and it is just so perfect because it says, I'm ready to take action on my dreams. Close your eyes and take a moment to visualize what your dream looks like. Make it so detailed you can touch it, feel it, and hear it. Vibrate with that vision. Is it appealing to you? Are you smiling? Are you peaceful? The more you run towards your dream, the more it becomes your reality. Now open your eyes, be present, and take action. And I'll put a picture of this card so you can download it in Circle as well. Things like this, where we can get out of our head and get back into our body, are the things that also help us reframe our thoughts and stop the overwhelm, stop the worry, stop the projection, and like get back to the truth of who we are and what we know to be true. And the more and more that we can do that, it's just getting out of our head, getting back into our body and visualizing like what we do want. And maybe we have this big dream over here, but I want to make sure that you have smaller dreams and visualizing where you're going along the way as well, because it's those small steps each day that lead to that huge dream, that big life that you're going for. So let's go ahead and I'll read this meditation to you. It's really beautiful. In preparation for this, I've been doing this meditation for like almost a week now. And it's really meaningful. So go ahead and just sit with your feet flat on the floor and your spine straight, head and neck in alignment. Do a slight close of your eyes and just a few deep breaths. Roll your neck and shoulders if you need to. I know that I am pure spirit, that I always have been, and that I always will be. There is inside of me a place of confidence and quietness and security where all things are known and understood. This is the universal mind, God, of which I am a part and which responds to me as I ask of it. The universal mind knows the answer to all of my problems. And even now, the answers are speeding their way to me. I needn't not struggle for them. I needn't worry or strive for them. When the time comes, the answers will be there. I give my problems to this great universal mind. I let go of them, confident the correct answers will return to me when they are needed. Through the great law of attraction, everything in life that I need for my work and fulfillment will come to me. It is not necessary that I strain about this, only believe. For in the strength of my belief, my faith will make it so. I see the hand of divine intelligence all about me, in the flower, the tree, the brook, and the meadow. I know the intelligence that created all these things is in me and around me, and that I can call upon it for my slightest need. I know that my body is a manifestation of pure spirit, and that spirit is perfect. Therefore, my body is also perfect. I enjoy life, for each day brings a constant demonstration of the power and wonder of the universe and myself. I am confident. I am serene. I am sure. No matter what obstacle or undesirable circumstance crosses my path, I refuse to accept it, for it is nothing but an illusion. There can be no obstacle or undesirable circumstance to the mind, which is in me and around me and serves me now. And as we close out our time together, let's go ahead and just release all the air that you have. Take a couple deep breaths together. So breathing in really big and out with a sigh. One more, biggest breath yet, in and out with a sigh. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.